We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
You're live. Ladies and gentlemen, you're now tuned into WDC Radio with Farron Dozier, live from Washington, D.C. Farron, are you there?
I'm here, Richard. How you doing?
Excellent, brother. You're free to go.
All right, thank you. Hey, good evening. Welcome to WDC Radio. I'm your host. I am WDC. Thank you for listening in. I'm calling in live right now from Washington, D.C. Advocacy Day sets off tomorrow. We just got done doing our training. And I have a very special guest for you coming up, so stay tuned. She's going to be sharing her story and her son's story living with sickle cell. All right, so just stay tuned for that. This is my theme song. It's on iTunes. What's the count? Curtis Lowe, Young Ice, IG the Great. Check it out. We'll be right back.
Way down in Miami, making a name. I love this game. To the NBA Hall of Fame, slam dunks, alley-oops, and the give and go. Vince Carter, Superman, and my man Carmelo and Rondo. Over in Boston with the big three, captivating audiences across the country and ruling the world. Like LeBron the King, I say, man, Kobe sure has a lot of rings. I do my thing, not for the bling, playing in the amount. It's the NBA Finals, so what's the count?
And we're back with Farron Dozier, WDC Radio. You're live, Farron, from D.C.
All right, thanks, Richard. Thanks again. All right, again, thank you for tuning and listening in. You can catch me streaming live right now at DC Talk Live, New York Talk Live, Atlanta Talk Live, and if you're in LA, LA Talk Live. Also on iTunes under R&B, LA Talk Live, and also on Ustream at LA Talk Live. We're streaming live right now. All right, again, thank you for listening, tuning in. I'm out here in D.C. Advocacy Day sets off tomorrow. I'll be on Capitol Hill. My first goal is to reach out to Barbara Boxer, and I got a couple more people to talk to. You can follow me on Twitter at IamWDC, on Instagram at IamWDC also, and the website for the nonprofit organization for sickle cell trait prevention is WDCONSCT.org. You can get all your information about sickle cell trait and also some information about sickle cell disease and the importance of being tested and knowing your status. So I have a very special guest for you. She's also live calling in from Louisiana. And let me see if she's available right now. Bridget, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are y'all?
I'm doing good, actually. Full day today. So I wanted to make sure that we were still able to do the show, and because our work is very important for our community to understand about sickle cell and sickle cell disease. Yes. So thank you for accepting my invitation on this short
welcome.
notice.
I have my husband on the line too, so I was able to get in touch with
him. Oh, he did? Oh, perfect. Thank you. So I'd like to start the show off with sickle cell trait awareness. Okay. So with both of you on the line, did you both know you had the trait?
I knew.
Yeah. Okay.
I knew because I have a couple of cousins that have the disease, and I had an aunt. She passed away due to complications from the disease. So,
okay,
I knew I had it. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have two older kids, so for me, having tests during pregnancy, that's how I found out I had the trait. So I was aware before my third child.
Okay. And so you both knew together in the relationship that you both carried it?
Well, actually, as far as me, no, I didn't know he had it. He knew, but
I didn't know he had it. Oh, he
no,
knew he
we had never discussed
so there wasn't. Okay,
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know she had it neither. So we never talked about it.
Right.
So
okay.
That's where the importance, of coming in and talking about it. So.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I want to start. That's why I start the show off with that, so we can hear the different scenarios, if you will, of how people either knew or didn't know, or like you just said, like both having it and didn't even, didn't have a conversation about it. So thank you for being open and sharing that, because that's very important for the community to understand. That these are some of the ways that it's inherited.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So when you guys come together and you have this child, what was the first thing that you found out as far as going to be having your son living with sickle cell disease?
Well, actually,
we didn't know until after he was born, and the automatic run a test to see, and we had got it. We had found out from a letter in the mail, and that's how we found out. Like maybe after a month he was born, we found out he had it.
Yep.
So you remember getting the letter in the mail from the hospital?
Yeah, I think it was from the
state,
the health department. Oh, from the health department, probably, huh?
Yeah, from them. Yeah, and actually, while I was pregnant with him, they to test for sickle cell and I think cerebral palsy. I mean not cerebral palsy, cystic fibrosis. That's the two tests that they started running while you were pregnant. But I denied it because I was going to have him either way, so I didn't even care to take the test. But
Oh, really?
He ended up having it. Yeah. They asked that while you're pregnant, so I declined.
And what was your thought process of declining that? Like you said, I know you said you were going to have it regardless, but it didn't matter at that point.
No, it didn't matter. I was going to have my baby, and I was raised strong, so I was going to do what I had to do to raise my child, and that's what I'm doing now. So.
That's right. No, I totally understand that. I get that. That's perfect. Okay. So when you realized that he had sickle cell disease, how did you respond to that with the hospital?
Well, I didn't know. I heard about it, but I didn't know about it like I know about it now. I wasn't really aware of it, and I read about it because I know I had heard some things about it, and once I read about it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like scary. My child. It was just scary, and I felt depressed for a while. I'm like, my child is gonna have to go through life with this. But then, like I said, I was raised strong, so I'm like, gonna do what we have to do. Keep fighting.
Me,
and how about you, sir?
I stayed focused. Like I said, I had some family members with it, and I knew what they was going through, and all I did was I accept the fact that that's my son. That's what he's gonna have, and he's not gonna know of a normal. He's not gonna know of a normal life. This is gonna be his normal life of him. So I further got more understanding and started being more alert to what to expect that comes with the disease.
Right.
So.
And I'm gonna let you both know that I can relate to you. It's because I have the trait myself.
Okay.
And I had a cousin on my dad's side that had the disease, but we never put two. When I found out I had the trait at 29, we never put two and two together. That that my dad, who came from my dad's side, at the time. Until I had my injury, and then I found out, and then I had to have my dad tested because he didn't remember that he had the trait.
Okay.
So he was 60 years old when he got tested. Because I'm like, look, if I'm going to be advocating for this, I got to know who it came from. And my mom said it's not her, so it's got to be you with my cousin. So he got tested at 60, and just to confirm that it was from his, from his side. So, yeah. So that's how it happened. It happens that way. Fortunately or unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So let's move forward. So you got your son is born, And so how did you seek your support? Did you go to the support groups, or how did you start to take care of him?
Well, at first, the doctors, talked to us, because actually one of his doctors, the hematologist, he actually has sickle cell. So he helped us, he helped us, bring us into it and comfort us and letting us know that they're going to walk us through it and getting us started and stuff. And then after that, we just started researching more and stuff. And the more you talk, the more you find out that there's more people that have it. Because, I hadn't heard of anybody that had it until, he was born and I started talking about it. So that's what we did, just research. And then eventually I came on Facebook and started searching for groups and stuff. And that's how I really started learning, from experience and people experiencing it, firsthand.
Right. And what happened when he had his first crisis? Do you remember that?
Yeah. His first crisis, which I know they say it's at least 6 months. It may manifest as the hand-foot syndrome, where the hands and the feet swell and cause pain. That was exactly how his started. So we would notice sometimes he was a little cranky, and at first I didn't know what to expect, but I started noticing his hands and feet was like swollen. And I'm like, and I touch it, and he kind of cringed and stuff. So that was our first experience with a pain crisis with him at 6 months.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And sir, how did you respond to that first crisis?
I was kind of nervous about it, and like my wife said, did more research about it. And I understand that was to be expected around that time of his after birth. That was expected at that time, because when you get to that part, like the older you get, the lesser, like it'd be more of the sickle cells. It ain't be just living off of mama, It'd just be him making his sickle cells, and that was one of the things to expect. I was nervous about it, but after a while, I understood it more and more,
Yep. Started getting used to it.
To reference your family, you don't remember. You remember being around your relatives when they had a crisis at all back, growing up, or you just knew about this family members?
Some of them I was around them, and some of them I knew about it. Them having it.
Yeah. Okay. And so mental stress. Let's talk about that for a little bit. On as the dad and having a son, how did you handle your mental stress around that?
Well, I'm the type of person, like, under pressure or whatever, I don't break under pressure. I always stay calm, So it was just one of those things that I just grew to understand and just stay focused for him. Don't show him fear,
Yeah.
And that's just how I carry it to this day, I take it one day at a time. It's like the saying, you play the hand that's dealt, That's what I do, Just go with it.
Thank you. Mom, how did you initially, handle your mental stress around your son?
Well, when he first started with it, I was pretty depressed, and I felt pressured and scared, and I was just panicky because I didn't know. I was like, what do I need to do? I knew what I needed to do because it was told to me, but it's just that moment. But after a while, I just calmed down, and I started thinking more clearly. And then, of course, the stuff they tell you, more fluids, pain medicine. And I started doing that, massaging them heating pads. And eventually I see it started to work. And I started to relax more. He started to calm down. So after that, and I just roll with it. And crisis, after that, I'm more calm. I know what to do now. And
yeah,
it got better and better at it. So
when you remember, go ahead, sir.
No, I just want to say that, as parents, having a child born with the disease, it is a life-changing thing not for us, but like for family, the little siblings, everybody,
Mm-hmm.
So, he calls for a little bit more attention,
Yeah.
So it's a learning thing. It's a lifetime learning thing,
Yeah, we're gonna get into the siblings in a little bit too, but I wanna ask the mom. Back when you had the opportunity to have that test, did you go back? Did you ever think back about that the choice or decision that you made back then, as far as how to deal with it, or did that ever come back and
Yeah, it came back to my. Yeah, it came back to my mind of saying, "Oh, that's what the test is for." But at the same time, I still didn't regret. Yeah, I didn't regret declining the test or anything. I just was like, "Oh," when they asked me that, now I remember. But it still doesn't bother me that I declined it, because either way, I was still having them and raising them. So.
Okay. Now let's talk about how it affects the rest of the family members. When your other family members found out about, and now the nephew, having the disease, or the cousin having the disease, how did that impact both sides of the family? Dad, do you want to go first, since you have, kind of a.
Okay. Well, my dad, his grandfather, he tried to talk positive about it, saying that he's going to outgrow it, but unfortunately, he has the most severe case of sickle cell, and it's going to be a part of his life for the rest of his life. And he just tries to stay positive, but I know he's worried about it because he keeps talking about it, so I know he's worried about it. And, like, from my side of the family, we had a few that have the disease, so they kind of sort of, understand, and they always ask for help and assistance when needed and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't as compelling as my wife's,
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
No problem.
Mom, how did your family take it?
My family took it hard because we don't have anyone in the family with sickle cell disease. The trait, yes, but sickle cell disease, no. A lot of them is not aware of what the disease comes with, entails, but I mean, I informed them and printed out papers and stuff, and they took it hard once they read it, and because we're a close family, and I mean, they're strong though, so they just told me we're gonna fight it and take care of him the best we can, and my mom, she took it real hard. She's real soft-hearted, but she took it real hard. I mean, she wasn't very aware of it, but she knows I think back then they did have a friend or something with it, and she know what happened. They passed away. And
right.
She thought he wasn't going to be living that much longer. Compared to back then, now today, there's more treatment.
Exactly.
And it's not,
life expectancy is a little bit longer now. Yeah,
exactly.
Longer now.
Exactly. And I made her understand that, so she started, getting better in her feelings. And, I mean, she still watch him closely, but she's a lot better now with coping with it.
Wow.
So.
Thank you. Again, thank you for being open.
Mm-hmm.
So, is everybody working at this time, or is somebody a stay-at-home parent? Like, how's the care for your son at this point?
I'm stay-at-home. Yeah, I'm stay-at-home. My husband still works.
Okay.
I stopped. I mean, I've been trying to work off and on. Since I had him, I've tried, but it's been hard. It's, because I may go to work and I get a call saying he's running a high fever. And, of course, I have to stop what I'm doing and bring him in to make sure it's not nothing more serious than maybe a viral or a cold or something like that. So,
right.
And then just different things, getting admitted into the hospital. We might stay there 3-4 days, a week, 2 weeks. And, I mean, that's hard to hold a job like that. So, I hung on, my job hung on until he had his stroke. And, that's just what.
Okay. And we're gonna start this. We're gonna go to the stroke after we take a break at the half hour.
Okay.
So he's a baby still. The family's impacted, relatives are impacted. What are you able to share this with your friends? Like how did your friends, respond to?
Well, I have a friend. She knows someone else that has a child with sickle cell as well. So she's pretty much aware of what happened. And also, I was working at work. When I started working, I found out someone had sickle cell over there, and she was suffering a lot. And unfortunately, she passed away not too long after I started. But
oh wow.
I mean, yeah. So some of my friends, they pretty much know or they know someone that had it. And I mean, they give me their support and stuff when I need help, when I need. So it's not a problem. Very supportive.
Yeah, likewise on my friends, they ask me every day how he's doing and everything, and they keep him in their prayers, and that's all I ask of them. Just keep him in their prayers. So, I got their support as well. And they always ask if I need anything, just to let them know. But I mean, I'm all right. Just gotta deal with this.
I don't usually ask this question, but I'm thankful that both parents are on the line. Usually I get one or the other, but I'm thankful that both of you were able to call in, because we get both sides of the impact of the families. Was there any fear of death? Because the mom, you've had experience of losing people with sickle cell.
Mm-hmm.
How did you handle that part of sickle cell, initially?
Well, it makes me nervous because I never know what complication he may have next, and because it's unpredictable. But I just try to stay strong and pray, and I just get support from my husband because he's my rock, and my mom. And that's how I keep going. And with him, my son, of course, because he smiles through it. He tries to smile through it all. So I'm just thankful every day. I wake up to his, pretty bright eyes and smile and stuff.
Yeah, he's a hard fighter. He gives me strength. That's how I make it through.
Yeah. And when we go to the hospitals, I'm really on the doctors. I ask every question because I'm real detail-oriented, and I'm very informed. I'm very into his care, whatever the doctors is doing. I pretty much have them trained now because they know when they perform a test, when they give the results, they know everything to tell me, exactly what to tell me. They even print the paperwork out for me to look at myself after they tell me. So that helps me, too, knowing I don't have to be in the dark of what will happen next. I hope he's here tomorrow and stuff. Me knowing what's the next step or what they did, performed or found out, that helps me in my mind know that, what's the next thing that may come up or how his health is doing on a day-to-day basis.
And that's very important for people the listeners to understand, because sickle cell can cause secondary complications because it can affect the organs, organ failure, acute chest syndrome. There's other complications.
Exactly.
So it's very important for the listeners to understand that there are secondary complications with sickle cell.
Yes, there is.
Dad, did you want to say something, Dad?
No, I just added that, it could affect your immune system as well,
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And then, what's important is for the listeners to understand that, there's so many different aspects of sickle cell. How did you, when he was such a younger age, know that these triggers that triggered his crisis? Were you able to pay attention if it was the cold weather, if it was, heat, water? Like, what did you notice that was starting those triggers?
Really, I never did notice. I tried noticing because I read, certain things that can trigger it: being too hot, being too cold, sweating too much, and there was never nothing consistent with his crisis. I would pay attention to everything. It's like it would just come on. Maybe the closest thing I could see is maybe if he had a cold. Maybe that would trigger a crisis. But other than that, he may have a cold and that will trigger a fever, from infection. Yeah. But as far as a pain crisis, there was really nothing consistent with triggering it. It just seemed like it would just come out of the blue. That's all I can see, because he would sweat, play outside, and he wouldn't catch a crisis. We've even went to Six Flags in San Antonio, and he was in the pool for maybe an hour, and I've read that can trigger a crisis, and he didn't catch a crisis at all. So it's just weird.
So usually just think you caught a cold.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
What did you notice? What did you notice, Dad? What did you notice?
Well, no, I just rebuttal what my wife said. It's just like at random. His case is very unique, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, I want to thank both of you for calling and listening. I mean, and sharing your story and listening and being open to the questions that I have for you. I know they may be a little tough, but it's really important, especially being here in D.C. and going to the Hill tomorrow, for the listeners and people to understand how important this disease is to us as advocates and family members and children who battle and suffer in some cases. Yeah. So thank you both again.
Oh,
Richard, are you there?
Thank you.
I'm here and ready to go. You ready to go to break?
Rich, can we take a break, Richard, real quick?
Indeed, we can.
Okay. Again, listeners, thank you for tuning and listening. This is WDC Radio. I'm your host. I am WDC. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I'll be posting a lot of photos and information tomorrow on Advocacy Day up here with the SCDAA and the Sickle Cell Consortium that I'm a part of. This is What's the Count. We'll be right back. Stay tuned for more from this family here about living with sickle cell.
Yeah, people hate to hear bad news and good news too. Usually when it's not for them, it's about you. Ain't that messed up? Boy, this road's a trip. Either they keeping you down or they pulling you down. Clip your wings so you can tail spin and hit the ground. We all here together on this spinning rock, trying to make some sense of this life we got. And I ain't met a man yet that got all the answers. And I ain't been nowhere yet where they not fighting cancer. I seen a good prison system that gives second chances. What's the hate for? What's the war for? Well, ask Wall Street. It's probably why they stock soar. I'm just a dreamer, John Lennon. But what do I know? My head stays spinning. A world full of hunger where people can't make it. They say we ain't got it. Man versus who can waste it.
I'm moving and I won't look back, no. I'ma get what's for me and get where I need to be. Won't let nothing get me off track, no. Yeah, it's a part of my story. No struggle, no glory.
Women now make up 37% of the workforce, changing their role forever. Harvard Medical School has now opened its doors to new female applicants. The first woman is now in space.
The majority of last year's doctorate degrees were earned by women.
We've come so far, but our news is changing for the worse. More women die from heart disease and stroke than men, even though it can be prevented. Make a change at GoRedForWomen.org today. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the American Heart Association's Go Red for Women.
Hi, this is Gloria Williams, inviting you to join me every Saturday, 5 p.m. Pacific, for the Branding Foot Nanny Show. Join me as I freestyle interview and discuss how to make your business a brand. So don't forget to tune in to the Branding Foot Nanny Show every Saturday, 5 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Radio Flag, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, or just watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live. I am the Foot Nanny, and we are more than just talk.
Welcome back to WDC Radio with Farron Dozier. We now go to the host and producer, Farron Dozier, live from Washington, D.C. Farron, are you there?
I'm here, Richard. Thank you, man. Thank you. Okay, back. I just want to touch on some of the key points tomorrow on Advocacy Day. There was a Sickle Cell Disease Research, Surveillance, Prevention, and Treatment Act. We haven't had this treatment act since 2009. It's been unfunded, and here it is, 2015. And so we're looking to hopefully, if this, act gets passed, it still may be 2 years out. So you can see how the funding issues have been around sickle cell. Since 2009, this treatment act has been unfunded. We want to allow other states to receive federal funds for patient counseling, education initiatives, and community outreach programs. I mean, that's where I'm right there in the middle of all that. Re-educating the community about sickle cell trait and sickle cell disease. We need funding for that. Patients can also receive federal funds matching for sickle cell disease-related services under Medicaid. We know that Obamacare is in effect now, and how that impacts households as far as having medical care and coverage. There's so many different things that we're going to be on the Hill for. We're going to be telling our stories, our individual stories, and maybe a couple of us in the group that will share our personal stories and why it's important to us in our different states. And we have people from all across the country here, from locally here in from Maryland all the way across from California. My roommate drove this evening from New York. And so just people from all across the country are here, patients, caregivers, people who don't have the disease that care for this cause. So we're all here, all walks of life. Tomorrow is a huge day for us on the Hill. And so the Nicholas family, thank you again for calling and listening and just being open to share your stories about your son.
No problem.
Thank you. No problem.
Okay, before we get to the stroke, what was going on that you noticed leading up to these, months before the stroke? How was his health that you can look back and kind of reflect and say you noticed some more crisis coming on, or his behavior, fatigue? What was going on with your son? Mom, you want to go first?
Yeah, no, actually, it was just the same thing. He would catch like a cold, and actually, I noticed his colds kind of had gotten better, since being from like 6 months, maybe 6 months to a year, because we would be in and out the hospital with viral infections, cold. And then after the year, they started him on hydroxyurea. So after that, he got better with the colds, viral infections. So that kept us out the hospital, and he went maybe a year and a half without a pain crisis. Then after that, I think maybe around 2, he started with, we would notice every now and then he would come and tell us he can't move his hand. And I would be like, you can't move your hand. So it would make him trying to work it, and it was weak. And then maybe 20 minutes later, it resolved itself, like nothing happened.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was like, wow, what was that? So I kind of figured maybe it could have been, a TIA transit ischemic attack, the real fast strokes. But wasn't sure. So I didn't pay attention to that one too much because it was like it resolved on its own, and I didn't know it could do that. So okay, a few months later.
Hold on, mom. Before you go, let me let her have the dad answer. What did you notice leading up to that?
Well, like all my wife said, except every once in a while, like me and him would talk, and for some reason he would say his head would hurt, slightly. Head would hurt slightly,
Yeah.
And he'll point to and stuff, and I'll rub it, I'll tell him I'll kiss his head and stuff, and then he'd say it'd be all right, it's gone,
Mm-hmm.
That started happening more towards the stroke, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So.
And then leading up to the hydroxyurea, we know that helps produce the fetal hemoglobin. You know, but it was more initial for the cancer patients. What was the conversation about that you had with your doctor getting him on that medication? Did they explain to you all the details about that?
Yeah, when he was first born and we had our first appointment with the hematologist, they did explain it to us, but they say they wanted to see how his disease affects him, and then we would go more into detail if he needed it. And once they did find out that he did need it, I had already kind of researched it because I Google and research a lot. So I noticed he was getting, sicker more with the crisis. So I pretty much mentioned it too at like the next appointment because the doctor knows he was having more crisis and stuff. So they went more into detail with us and explained to us that it was, a drug to help with chemo. It's a chemotherapy drug, right? I think it is. Yeah, initially for cancer patients. And they found out that it helps with sickle cell as well. So I went with it. They told me it's like side effects is not too bad. They start off with the smallest dosage. So I was okay with that. And they say it helps some and it doesn't help some.
Right. Okay. So, and that's important because it helps re-trigger those fetal hemoglobin. So, and some of the results are that less crisis come. Well, okay. So the headaches, you noticed that he's telling you about the headaches. The hand is doing its thing. What was going on that night before this stroke happened? Did you notice anything?
Actually, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, he had like a cold. He was admitted to the hospital.
He was already,
Yeah, he was already at the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah, for a cold. That was for a week. Oh, you know what? I do remember now. Yeah, we were admitted. I brought him into the hospital because he had a bad cold. And he was admitted, and we stayed there for a week. And then we left. And then the next morning, when we was leaving, I noticed he was kind of like walking funny, like off balance. Like if you just maybe would nudge him, it looked like he would fall. But the doctors didn't seem to be concerned. So I was like, well, maybe it's just from being in the hospital and he's weak, maybe. So I just, we went home, and then we noticed the next morning he was like really sleepy, and that's not usually him. He's usually a happy child. He wakes up in the morning smiling all the time. So noticed he didn't, really want to wake up. He just wanted to sleep, just be left alone. And then he told me his head was hurting. So I gave him some ibuprofen, and he went back to sleep. So at that point, I noticed he was acting like abnormal.
Okay.
So he has a great appetite. So we even offered him food he didn't want to eat. My mom came home. Yeah, my mom came home, and she asked us if he had been sleeping, and we told her, yeah, and she's like, that's not normal. So she offered him to eat, and he did wake up, and she cut him some grapes. And when he went to get the grapes, he couldn't grasp them.
Wow.
And she told us, look at this. And I looked, and it's like he couldn't control his hand, and it wouldn't move. It was the fingers, his dexterity was off, and he couldn't move the other arm at all. So at that point, it was like, well, we need to take him in. That is not normal, and still very lethargic at the same time.
And he's how old at this time?
He's 4.
He's 4 years old when he had the stroke.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
4 years old.
Dad, where was up with you, Dad?
Well, I just came home after they left the hospital, and my mother-in-law was trying to feed him some grapes and stuff, and he couldn't grab it. So I gave him my phone. He liked to play games on my phone.
Yeah.
He liked to play on my phone. And when I gave him, he couldn't hold my phone. And I tried to put him in one of the little games that I have on my phone, and he couldn't even play the little game right. And, that was like, that was red flag for me, too.
So you knew that if he wasn't going to play the game on the phone, then something was going on.
Something was wrong, yeah. and then we brought him back to the hospital.
And and
wow,
it went from there. And we they looked at him, and his doctor started acting, fast, and made a call to New Orleans and had us flown out there within an hour. So it took off from there.
Wait, they had him flown out there?
Yeah, because in Lafayette, where we stayed, they don't have a pediatric neurology department to treat stroke in pediatrics. So they called New Orleans. That was the closest. The next would have been Texas, but New Orleans was closest, and that's closer for us. So they flew us out there, and within an hour,
what was that like to have to get on? What was that like for you?
All of that happening.
Yeah.
Oh, it was nerve-wracking. I was like, oh my gosh, my child is not going to make it. I can't believe this is happening. I hope I acted fast enough, and it's just all kind of thoughts was like going through our heads. And I mean, I hated seeing him like that because he's always happy and chipper, talkative, and it was just devastating.
Yeah.
It was devastating.
Wow. So he gets to New Orleans, and they're able to identify, the stroke happened.
Yes. They ran a CT, and they identified it. A CT and an MRI, and they identified that that's what happened.
Yeah, and not only that, they also identified that it was a bunch of small little strokes as well.
Exactly.
That
right.
Our hospital didn't catch.
Exactly. All the time we said.
No, I don't mean to cut you off. It's important for the listeners to understand that these little kids can have silent strokes, and exactly. they go undetected for periods of time, unfortunately.
Yep.
So they were able to identify even the silent strokes that had been going on, with him. Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, it was all the other times that it happened, because it happened a few times from that first time I told you about. We took them to the hospital, the doctors, but by the time we would get there, they had resolved on their own, and they were like, it could possibly be a stroke, but they can't see anything because there's nothing to see. It's resolved. It's like nothing happened. But once we got to New Orleans, they ran all the tests and scans, and they identified that all those times we were, seeing that's what it was, little mini strokes all over his brain. That's what had happened, leading up to that big one.
And in your own words, how do you describe to your family what the stroke is? Like, how do you describe it?
As in, like, explaining it to them.
Yeah, explain it to them. Yeah.
Happened.
Yeah, what happened? Yeah.
I mean, they were all devastated already because of all this going on, and I mean, I just told them they already kind of knew, because I have an aunt that had a stroke, so they kind of knew like the signs and stuff. But I explained to them that is what we were thinking. He did have a stroke, and I mean, everybody was devastated because I mean, he's 4 and he's lovable and everyone loves him. But I just told them we're in a good place and they're taking care of him. They're acting fast, and it's not too bad. It's not too bad. At the time that they caught it and stopped it. So that was the best I could explain it to them at the time, because I was kind of
keep them encouraged, right? You got to keep them the positive.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Dad, how are you doing with your son and the stroke, man? How's being a father? How are you handling that at the time?
At the time, I was a little discouraged about it. You know, that's something you want to happen to your son, let alone at that age. You don't want that to happen. Only 4 years old.
Yeah, and that's his own. With it.
Yeah, I explained. I explained to my family members and stuff. It was kind of sort of like my wife's family. They kind of sort of understood, because my grandmother, she had a stroke, and they were supportive and everything. Try to stay positive about it, But I was, my main thing was, I was thinking about, why our hospital didn't catch the little small ones.
Of
that
course.
That could have maybe prevented the big one. I'm not saying that it could have, but,
Right.
Stuff like that was going through my mind,
Yeah.
Of course.
And,
of course.
And, after they found out it was a stroke, at the time, he was still talking and he was still playing and everything, it was just me and him playing, with some blocks and stuff. And, I was telling him, I said, hey, Dylan, look, you could stack these blocks up, And I was stacking the blocks up, and all of a sudden I realized he's not moving at all, He, got stuck in daze, he was drooling and everything. Well, come to find out that was, they calling it seizure-like symptoms due to the pressure from having a stroke.
Right.
And from that moment on, he hadn't been able to talk. He has to eat through a feeding tube, and his right side, it was alternating. First it was his left side not functioning properly. Then it changed to the right side.
To the right, and the left is completely okay.
Yeah, and now the left is okay, and it's still the right that's we having to go to rehab and therapy for, and his speech, trying to work his tongue, so he can eat.
Wow, and that's where he's at right now, living with sickle cell to this day still.
That's his status right now. Yeah, that's his status right now.
Wow.
And actually, the hematologist and the neurology team, they say they've never seen a case like that. They say it's not typical of sickle cell with a bilateral stroke.
Wow.
So they're monitoring him and, still run scans and stuff because they want to see what's going on. They've done every test under the sun in the hospital to see what could have caused the many strokes leading up to this, bilateral stroke, having a stroke on both sides at the same time. Yeah. Especially in a child with sickle cell.
So language. So his language is impaired, and he's still feeding through the tube.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
He has to. He goes to therapy 3 times a week, and he goes to New Orleans monthly for apheresis. And,
blood exchange.
Yeah.
So he gets a full blood exchange?
A full blood exchange every month, yeah. That's how they're treating it.
Yeah. They're making sure his hemoglobin stays above 10.2.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When it drops, do you know what it drops to? If there's something going on, well, how low does it get?
It can get low as a 6 or a 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll get as low as that. But so far, since the blood exchange he's been doing for 4 months now, it'll drop. By the time his next exchange is due, it's at 8.59.
Okay.
So that's pretty good for him.
Hey, that's still pretty good. That's still pretty good. Yeah, that's still pretty good.
So they've been doing good. Blood exchanges. After the blood exchange, he's left with maybe 9 or 10% of sickle cells left in his blood. So that's real, that's real satisfying, and that's real good.
Wow.
So they get most of it out.
Bridget, thank you for responding to my message to say this evening. This was not planned. This show was not planned at all.
Oh, so, really? Oh, I'm glad.
No,
I'm glad I could help.
Yeah, no. I'm again. Thank you for responding. This is important for people to understand.
Thank you.
Wow.
I'm glad to help with awareness and stuff, because it is really important. It's just amazing how many people don't know, because I was one of those people, and it's crazy, that this type of disease happens to people, and it's not well known.
Nothing is not well known. It's like the trait. That's where it all starts down to knowing you have the trait.
That's
the whole foundation right there. Knowing you have the trait, and knowing if your partner has the trait.
Right.
That way you know what you're dealing with.
Yep.
And we take it a step further here on WDC Radio because it's not just sickle cell trait, but there's thalassemia trait, hemoglobin C trait, D trait. There's hundreds of traits out there that, when come in contact with sickle cell trait, creates that form of disease. So you can have SD, SC, sickle cell thalassemia, Monroe. There's so many different types. So we want to make sure that people, that we get past this, make sure they don't have sickle cell trait in your partner, but the other red blood cell hemoglobinopathies that are out there, because everybody is dating different. You got mixed races now. You got, people not aware of their bloodline. Just because you're Caucasian or Hispanic or Mediterranean, you could have that bloodline that carries one of those conditions. So it is very important for trait awareness is what I took on by having the trait myself. And my 17-year-old daughter has the trait. And like I said, we've been impacted by it, so it's important as a topic.
That's awesome. It is.
Wow. Where are you at mentally as a family together? Where are you at? I mean, being impacted with him, with the blood exchange, and I mean, how do you? I can't even. I have 3 daughters. So I can't even imagine what that could feel like, to have to do that. My 17-year-old doesn't even ride a bike because I don't want to see her fall. So I can't even imagine. That's my fault because I'm protecting I don't want to see her fall.
Yeah,
but how is that? How are you guys taking that on? Are you getting help personally?
Well, for one, I want to thank God that the 2 children are very understanding and very, very patient.
Yes.
Because at the time this happened around the holidays. Yes. And, there was no Thanksgiving, there was no Christmas.
Sure wasn't.
It was no New Year's. It's real hard, and they understand, and all they want is for their little brother to be back to how they know him, back to normal,
Exactly.
So they're real patient with that. So that that helped me, be strong.
Take the pressure off.
And stuff. So, and keep in mind they're only 11 and 8, so they're young as well. So they, show their understanding. So I'm real thankful for that.
The whole family's impacted.
Oh yeah. The whole family. Yeah.
The whole family, but everyone is so supportive. If I'm in the hospital, they call, ask if we need anything. If I need to go home for a night, they'll stay overnight. And I don't leave because I don't want to miss anything. So I'm right there with my son. So, it's hard to move me once we're in there. But, I mean, they're very supportive. I have no problem. Even when we was in New Orleans for a month and a half, they made way. I mean, a family member was up there every weekend with us to make sure we had things and just making sure we see our faces and for their support and love. And that meant so much, and got us through that hard time while we were there. So
can you speak to that real quick? Because I know we had a few minutes left. I know there's a lot of our community who don't have that support. What can you say to those family members that may not be that supportive? What can you say to them to get them involved in the care for that warrior?
I mean, some of them may feel like they can't do much, I guess, maybe by just visiting, or they may feel scared or don't want to see a family member like that, but that means a lot, just showing your face. You don't have to bring anything, money, nothing. It's just important that you go and let, the people that's impacted and experience it at that moment see that you care with that smile and that, that family warmth. That's the most things that matter. That's all they want.
Yeah.
If you can at least, do that, Nothing else. Just
difficult. Just difficult to see that loved one in the hospital. I can tell you. And now that I know, it's difficult to see that loved one in the hospital. But like you said, on the other side of it is what that patient, that warrior feels of the comfort and the support from the family in the midst of all that. I think that's where the difference is made.
Yes, and with him seeing his family come in, I mean, he would always laugh when they come in and they make him laugh. So it took his mind off the illness. It took his mind off of why he was there, and that helps too. You know, keeping them positive and taking their minds off of things, because the hospital helped with that as well. They had events every day for the kids, you know, because they focus on taking their minds off of why they're in there. And,
exactly.
You know, positivity help you heal fast too. The mind is a powerful thing. So,
exactly.
Family members support, very important.
Thank you again. Thank you both for being on this call. This is almost an hour phone call. I know we dug a little deep into the conversation, living with sickle cell, but it has to be told. It has to be told. And I want to end the show with this question for each one of you. Take a couple seconds. Mm-hmm. Dad, what do you want the world to know about sickle cell?
I want the world to know that it's a life-changing disease, even a trait. I'm also worried because it's so important to me. You know, after doing so much research and knowing about it, it's really important to know about it. You know your bloodline, know your history. You know, and you could go from there with it.
We want to make this a common conversation. We talk about breaking the silence. We want to make this a common conversation. Common. Yes. And thank you for that. Mom,
no problem.
What do you want the world to know?
I just want the world to know that, you know, just like we can bring to light, you know, all these other diseases like cancer and AIDS, HIV, sickle cell is just as important. And there are people suffering every day in and out of hospitals in pain, and they need the help just like all these other diseases. You know, it needs to be brought to the light, more awareness. I mean, even if you're not experiencing it, it helps to have support and love. And the more you know about it, the more support it gets, the more research it gets, the more funding it gets, and that's how important it is to know about it. The more you bring it to the light, you know, the more everyone will know, and you can go deeper into finding out and trying to cure it. Even a better way than a bone marrow transplant if possible.
Definitely.
It's very important.
And one of the things that we're going to share that's important to our community tomorrow on the Hill is that we're asking for 25 sickle cell treatment centers, because there's so many families like yourself that have to travel outside, you know, miles and hours away to get treatment.
Yeah.
So we're going tomorrow, and we're going to be letting them know that we need 25. We wanted 40 in the beginning, but right now we're going to be reasonable and ask them to fund 25 sickle cell treatment centers, like infusion centers, so that patient can go, you know, there and get that care. So that's another one of the topics that we're going to be after, just to let them know, you know, like I said, the importance. You know, again, thank you both for your time. You know, I appreciate you both for coming and sharing and taking time out. Dad, thank you for coming on and sharing. I know you're out, you know, handling your business. Thank you so much for making time and responding.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it.
I'm in Mexico.
Yeah, thank you for letting us share.
So, thank you.
It's very important to me.
Okay, well, I will, again, listeners, thanks for tuning in, listening. This is WDC Radio. I'm your host. I'm WDC, live from Washington, D.C. I'll be back next week, same time, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on LA Talk Live, reality radio, where we're more than just talk. Thank you both.
Boston with the dribble up and down the court, fast and slow. 25 years ago, the WDC, and it's me, your man Curtis Blow. From Dr. J to Michael Jordan to Kevin Durant, who leads the whole league in scoring. Dwayne Wade down in Miami, making a name. I love this game. To the NBA Hall of Fame, slam dunks, alley-oops, and the give and go. Vince Carter, Superman, and my man Carmelo and Rondo over in Boston with the big three, captivating audiences across the country, ruling the world like LeBron the King. I say, man, Kobe sure has a lot of rings. I do my thing, not for the bling, playing in the amount. It's the NBA Finals, so what's the count?
Tell me what's the count? Had Jerry run a route and Montana throw it out. Atwater make him sober when the back try to bounce. So I'm flipping through the channels as the Bulls wear I'm out. Trying to go for 40 enemies, closed mouth. So I'm ESPN and bury like a mouse. Scatting through the rivals, playoff idol. He'll make all enemies suicidal. Similar to Marshall Falk, a quick bouncer. Scatting on the fast, all you hear is the announcer. Dead competition, so the crowd scream louder. Then he realized Roger Craig is his founder. So he sits on the defender around her. As Kareem Abdul-Jabbar hooks a mountain. Magic with a pass, so the Lakers straight clowning. All I wanna know is homeboy, what's the count? And
Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. You're tuned in to LA Talk Live, where we're more than just talk.